Hello, good afternoon. Thank you all for coming here today. I would like to introduce our presenter, but also maybe the housekeeping here today. Today we'll be talking about supporting mental health for new mothers using the power of song. Our presenter is Dr. Elizabeth Brizola. She is a PhD psychologist, a musician, and research in the areas of health promotion and mental health prevention. So this webinar will be available tomorrow at our MHCC webpage. You please feel free to visit us. If you have any difficulties with the technology, please send to us a message on the chat. At the end, we will ask you to answer a post survey. It is important to us. So that's our acknowledgement and disclosure. This webinar, this presentation was prepared for the New England and MEHCC under a cooperative agreement for the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Service Administration. All the material appearing here is this presentation. It's the responsibility of the presenter. At this time, our coordinator of Assistant Secretary of MEHCC is Dr. Nita Delphin. So here's our number. This information also will be available tomorrow at our page. So the MEHCC New England use affirmative recovery-oriented language in our activities that we present here, and that is related to strength-based and hopeful, inclusive and accepting of diverse cultures, genders, perspectives, and experiences, healing center, and also this information out of our language in recovery will be available tomorrow. So it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Elizabeth. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Graziella. It's such a wonderful invitation to be here today with you. It's a pleasure to share not only a little of what I've learned along my professional and personal journey, but also to offer some encouragement to all who work in this precious area of mothers and mental health. So I'll jump right in. Our objective then is to explore this potential of singing and of song as it offers us a free, simple, yet effective way to foster mental health for mothers with depression. So I'm going to be addressing a simple but meaningful aspect of all of our lives. Music, specifically singing, and how it can affect us, especially during the time of life when we're nurturing an infant and when the road gets a little rocky. Now, I'm saying we because although as mental health professionals, we may be helping others, specifically mothers, through these difficult times, music and singing is actually part of everyone's life. And many people, besides mothers, will also have the opportunity of singing to an infant, be it in a family gathering with friends in community settings, or preschool, religious gathering, or social event. So I'm hoping that you take from this time here together much more than a means of supporting mothers suffering from depression, which is already a lot. I invite you to also reflect on how singing has been a part of your life, and if perhaps you want to use it in your work or inspire mothers to do so. So I plan on giving you some information, some food for thought, hopefully, and I'm hoping that at the end we can have an opportunity to reflect together on how all of this that I'm bringing to you resonated with you. So as I sat down to prepare this one webinar, I wondered, how many of you remember being positively affected by music? So maybe you've been in a troublesome situation or just feeling a little low, and then you reached out to maybe your music app or your CD, or tuned on the radio, or played an instrument seeking comfort, consolation, company, or a shift of mood, something. And perhaps you did feel a change after that musical moment. Maybe not completely, but you felt some solace or calmness, a discharge or relief. Maybe you had an insight or a shift in the course where you were going. And that's because music does have an influence on us. What we say, the power, for lack of another word, of music over us. It's over our mood. It's the power over our emotions. And it's been noticed for, thousands of years. This isn't new, but it's only been researched now for the past several decades. And studies describe how it can evoke profound emotions, and it can stimulate, it can tranquilize, can help enhance understanding. We see that a lot in preschools. It can alter perception of pain. It can reduce stress and tension, even assist in healing. It's used in hospitals, among other things. So as we address this very crucial topic of perinatal depression, I thought I'd start by giving you a simple notice that as a mental health professional, music and singing enables you to have this very strong, natural, easy tool in your hands, and it is always readily available. So how about we take some time now to look at just how far science has progressed and actually understanding the impact of music and singing on people in general, and then more specifically on mothers. So can we go to the next slide? So songs are part of our lives from a very early age. So music comes into the picture even before we're aware of it. And I'm talking about sounds that we hear from the womb, and then after, when we're born, voices of mothers or maybe caregivers as well that speak or hum or sing. And they all do so in their own way, whether to comfort or to teach, entertain, to play with, or communicate with us. And this happens in all the cultures and all throughout time. And though most of us don't have memories of our first years of life, some songs have a way of coming back to us. So I'd like to invite you now to take a few minutes to think back and try to remember songs from your own childhood, or maybe a song that you remember someone, family or friend, mentioning, having sung to you as a baby or a child, melodies and or words that are part of your story. So what's the first song that comes to mind? And I'll pause here for a few minutes. Yeah, feel free to share in the chat if you'd like to. Now, why would this be of any importance at all? I mean, these are simple sounds, right? But sounds along speaking, they become fundamental elements of our understanding of the world and of understanding of relationships. Does that sound maybe like a little too much? Well, have you noticed how our speech is soaked with melody? I mean, you're listening to me now, it's not monotone, right? And that melody does count. Just think, like when you've been maybe on the phone with a friend, and from the sound of their voice, you didn't have even to see them, just hearing them, you immediately know something is a little off. Now, how do you know? Well, we've been hearing sounds since before we're born, and we're meaning bestowing beings. So we're giving meaning to those sounds. We're filtering what sounds are sincere, which ones carry emotions, which ones are attentive. And we're attentive to intentions that come with the sounds. And the singing voice is even more transparent. Some say even that politicians should sing their plans, because we'd be able to tell right away who's truthful and who's well-intentioned and who's not. But wait, now I'm getting ahead of myself here. Let me give you some background data about what singing is. I mean, day-to-day singing from a psychological, emotional standpoint. So what ingredients give it such potential to change mood and ultimately, which is our goal here, how could it help people who are taking care of infants and suffering while they're doing so? Can we change slide? So from a psychological standpoint, looking at singing in general, not professional singing, I'm talking about singing in the shower, singing in the car with friends, maybe at birthday parties, in groups or choirs. Research reveals singing as beneficial to mental health, and it has been associated with reducing depression across all our lifespan. Singing also promotes integration of the person as a whole, so our cognitive, physical, social, cultural, emotional self. So much so that MIRs light up like a Christmas tree when we sing. You know, it engages our body, our mind, memories, motivations, relationships. And singing also enables communication of emotion, of intention, of thoughts. Singing reveals who we are and is a window into our inner selves. And that's usually why we feel so vulnerable when we're singing. And it's also an opportunity for us to express our creativity. So we'll look at all these things closer later on. But to make this moment here now a little more interactive, I wanted to invite you again, maybe now, for you to pick a song. Just pick a song, any song to sing, any song that you want. And I'll give you a few minutes to do that too, if you want to, of course, and if you can. And then just sing. We're all, I think most of us are all muted, so just, if you can, sing a little bit of it. And feel free to write the name of it in the chat too, if you want. Now, that song, whichever song you chose, comes attached to a context. So it comes attached with the reason for the choice, with an emotional color. Maybe it reminds you of certain people, or the words remind you of something, and so forth. So this is a part of the beauty and the strength of this field. And when you suggest to a mother to sing to her infant, it is actually an opportunity of integration, of bringing together puzzle pieces, and of building something that goes beyond the moment, beyond herself, and beyond the child that she may be singing to. Can we go to the next slide now, please? So with all its complexity, maternal singing is in its early ages of development. So it started being more intensely researched in the 90s by scholars from different fields, psychology. We have researchers in pediatrics, nursing, psychiatry, midwifery, music therapy, for example. And today, there are scholars in Asia and Europe and Australia, North America, South America, and they're all investing and understanding more, though it's pretty clear already that it is a very helpful parenting resource as mothers deal with their daily tasks of feeding, bathing, soothing, putting to sleep. And studies frequently associate maternal singing with improved bonding, with decreased maternal stress and decreased infant crying. So we're slowly but surely building a solid theoretical base, though examining singing practices of both healthy mothers and struggling mothers, struggling with mental health. And as you'll see further on, there is promise and supportive evidence of its health benefits, as well as the role in well-being. So when we look at the numbers, and I'm sure most of you are very aware of this regarding maternal mental health now, during these past couple of years with COVID, we're even more aware of the urgency of having resources available to mothers all across the globe. I mean, COVID accentuated so many of risk factors with all the unknowns, the igniting of the high levels of stress, having to deal with so much by ourselves, the diminished social interacting. So hopefully now things are improving and wherever you are. But so far we're seeing figures of around 34% of women developing perinatal depression. And that's not even looking at minorities. Now, a large array of studies in this area have been around infants, the ones on the receiving end of singing, and their reactions and the effects on their growth, their development, attachment, and such. And this is very encouraging, but that won't be our focus today. We'll be focusing on the mothers. So can we have the next slide? So there are considerably less studies about the singing mothers than the infants, and the impact that it has on them, on the mothers, and on their own mental health. And this was my focus on the dissertation research, phenomenological study of the experience of first-time mothers singing to their infants up to 18 months old. And when looking for other studies, anything about maternal singing and mental health, it's interesting. We found three main umbrella themes that I'm sharing with you today that were addressed. And I'd like to share with you, here we have the aspects of maternal singing, and I'm going to be elaborating on that. The group singing and mental health, and I'll be elaborating on that, and then the singing and the perinatal depression. So let's look at each one of those and their subtopics. What does maternal singing actually entail? So could we go to the next slide, please? Okay, so first, the aspects of maternal singing and mental health. Bonding, I'd say this is the biggest and most spoken of that I've seen. This is really beautiful and also really hard to see, right? How can you tell when bonding is actually happening? How do we bond, say, with an infant? And well, you can touch, you can hold, you can talk to, you can cradle, you can interact, respond to, at a certain pace with more or less difficulty. And these things can be really hard when you're not feeling yourself, right? And you aren't motivated, like happens with mothers struggling with depression. So here's the thing, you can touch someone with your song, and it's different than speaking to them. It goes deeper and it reaches farther. For example, say it's lunchtime and a mother is presenting a new food to her infant, okay? So she'll come up and say, okay, now here's some broccoli. Do you think that it would be different if she came up and sang to her infant, broccoli, broccoli, good from the start, broccoli, broccoli, good for your heart? So when singing, she's communicating much more. It's not only informing, here, you're going to have this new food, it's called broccoli, but it's also transmitting the emotion and the intention of, this is quite something, I'm so glad to be here with you. I hope you like this. I wonder if you will. Broccoli itself is no longer the center of the interaction. It's the us. We're singing and connecting. And this gives a sense of mutual belonging, of being on the same wavelength, a sense of closeness, of nurturing that can develop intimacy. It helps mother and child be attuned, create this personal tie, invest in the relationship. It's bonding. And through song too, mothers express their emotions. So both positive and negative, right? I mean, melodies can help mothers express their sense of isolation, confusion, anger, frustration, as well as their love and delight for their child while caregiving. This is especially clear in lullabies. And maybe you've noticed this. Lullabies usually have soothing melodies, but the lyrics can be pretty dark. All around the world this happens. I mean, someone's gonna eat you up, or someone's gonna take you away or destroy you. And I mean, why? Is this a joke? Or is it simply a way, an integrative way to express, integrative way to express all the complexity of caregiving, of giving so much of themselves, trying to find the strength and meaning of what is it to be a mother here, getting so little sleep and trying to come to terms with the whole mothering scenario. And at the same time, having this small being that keeps crying to take care of. So singing is a very physical, concrete way of expressing what's going on inside. And they can do this in their own original way, or even making up melodies and words to songs so they match what's going on inside and what's going on around them. So I remember talking with Lillian, one of the women in my research. She paused several times to sing to her son, Carlos, who was with us. She sang with confidence. She knew entire lyrics by heart. It was like, whoa, wow. And at one point, Carlos started getting fussy, and quick as a wink, Lillian adjusted and substituted the words of the song for her thoughts at the moment. I'm gonna find out what's wrong with you, what's happening here, I hear you cry. So, and this is what mothers end up doing. Their melodies, their voice, without even thinking about it, or express their feelings through their sounds, express their thoughts, express what's going on. And it's not just speaking thoughts or maybe yelling emotions, but almost like a mix of them both. And as they do this, it can also bring memories back. It can build a mnemonic channel, bridges to the past. Motherhood is often a time to remember one's own upbringing, right? Childhood, maybe your youth, could be awakening memories of experiences, positive or negative. Commonly, there are songs that paint a scenario of those growing years. If you look back, they could be songs that you heard, and maybe songs that you sang, or maybe some songs that were sung to you. And remembering these past times and the tunes can be an emotional experience too, and an opportunity to address or even re-edit those experiences, to maybe address trauma in a safe way. This could happen, for example, a mother who starts singing to her daughter, "Twinkle, twinkle, little star." And when she does, she has a flashback. She remembers stars. She remembers walking down the beach during her teen years, feeling miserable, wondering at the meaninglessness of her life. When suddenly she turns toward the sky and crying, she asks, "Does anyone care?" And at that very instant that she looks up into the night sky, she sees a falling star. And now here she is. She's caring for someone and she's asking, can I care? Who will care for me? And this is what I mean when I say that singing can also be a pathway to healing trauma, finding a door to dealing with hardships in ways to address and re-edit them. And it's a non-intrusive way, and it's an integrative way because of the nature of what singing and music is. So mothers can integrate singing into their daily tasks, also using it as a practical resource, communicating with their infant, calming them down, calming themselves down, helping them sleep, calling their attention, getting to know them better. And this is an amazing help. I remember taking my firstborn to the pediatrician for the very first time. He wasn't a man of very many words, but I do remember him recommending this. He said, have a song for each activity. So for baths, for meals, for diaper change, any activity. Let them have a town crier. Here comes whatever it is, mealtime, or here comes, let the songs be that town crier. This was invaluable advice. It was so helpful to me, but also to my baby who was learning, everything, and now she knew what was coming by the song that she heard. So songs can be part of goodbyes. It can be part of we're going on a car ride, or the car ride itself can be part of naps, of diaper changing, playful time, waiting. It was especially helpful as my kids grew up to sing, wait, wait, wait for mommy, wait, wait, wait for mommy, wait, wait, wait for mommy, I'm gonna wait so patiently. And at first, as a little baby, they don't understand the words, but it turned into that routine of when we needed to wait, we could wait with a song. And any moment really can be painted by sound or song. And when repeated, it can turn into a routine, carrying the meaning of that moment with it, right? Together with the emotion and the memory and the bonding that I was telling you about. So it all comes in with this package. This can also be a special opportunity for mothers to transmit their customs and beliefs, to educate their infants, passing on their culture and or their language, Several mothers I spoke to wanted to teach another language besides English to their infant, to share what they believe is important through song. And songs stick, right? Because you remember those songs. You might forget other things, but those songs get stuck in your memory. And it's a playful and that's a natural way. For an immigrant, this can be especially precious as it connects them not only to their memories, but to their roots, and brings their past to the present. It makes their culture palpable. This is the beauty of song, of music. Multi-ethnic groups, couples, or biracial couples too, can benefit as values and religious belief are transmitted by song. So when mothers sing, and it works, right? Because it doesn't always work, but when it works, their child's mood and attention is changed by their song, or they turn their head, or they stop crying. This is a real boost to their self-esteem. It gives them a sense of achievement, of mastery. I'm able to be a good mother, at least for this moment. Yes, I can do this. So they feel heard, they feel recognized, and this success can be especially important for first-time mothers, for depressed mothers, for mothers who are struggling, who are still unsure of their new role and their capacities. For example, one mother I spoke to told me about a time, it was about 3 a.m., when her baby woke up crying and he just couldn't go back to sleep. She tried this, she tried that, she tried several things, and then she just got him and hugged him tight and sang, and he slept. And she said, oh, this felt so good. So they notice that they don't have to be beautiful voices. I mean, they don't have to sing and tune. They just need to love and care for their child with the song. After all, that's what a child is listening for too. I mean, the sounds of attention, the sounds of care, the emotion that comes with the action. They're sponges of that. And the mother is also yearning for this feeling of being heard, of being at ease, of being accepted and not being evaluated. And though she may feel sad, anxious, even hopeless, or angry, or numb, and it may be difficult to care for that infant, expressing some of those feelings in song and melody, and meanwhile being successful at her task, could give her a boost of dopamine, of motivation that she needs to continue to move on, to take another step. So I imagine you can easily recognize these aspects, these 5 aspects of singing that I told you about: bonding, expression of emotion, remembering, dealing with the day-to-day situation, and feeling better about oneself as ingredients of mental health. These are healthy aspects. They're strengthening mothers emotionally, reducing their anxiety, their stress and tension. Can we go to the next slide, please? And besides these aspects of singing itself, as I looked at research, it was clear that singing in groups had a particular flavor. So mothers, and especially new mothers, commonly seek groups during pregnancy and or after birth. And this in itself is a whole big area of study. And in many countries, there are singing groups as well being offered to mothers. And there's especially a growing concern to offer these groups to those that are struggling with mental disability. So now let's take a closer look at what we know so far about group singing. So studies show how singing together with peers enables women to connect. It facilitates what I'm calling a social duet, for lack of another term, with other moms. They're interacting. And as they interact, sometimes at a deeper level, this happens through the possibility of several different voices becoming one voice in a song, right? That's what we do when we sing together. Not only do they notice that they're not struggling alone, other mothers are also struggling or having to deal with similar situations, but also they experience the social support and the connection through sound that enables them to feel that they belong. I'm not alone, I belong here. And you're probably quite aware of the impact that community has on us, right? And singing brings a different level of connection since it creates this special bond, different than interacting by talking, different than interacting with playing or working or other activities. And this research points out it turns us inward and outward at the same time. And there are several other benefits of singing together that have been pointed out by research with singing groups in general, not just with mothers. For example, they say it enhances the process of learning something, develops patience, as we must sometimes wait for others, adapt to a common pace, and we practice listening. All important, growthful, that word doesn't exist, but growthful skills. Singing together involves sharing who we are. Singing together, we can feel that we're part of a community without losing our individuality. And at the same time, different than speaking, we can all sing at the same time and still be understood even more. It's better when we sing together, not talk together, right? Creating a oneness. I mean, a oneness that wasn't there before. So singing with other moms gives women opportunity to learn new songs and look at their parent-child relationship through other people's eyes. Plus, music in itself provides structure and repetition. It builds routine, which can help mothers regulate emotions and behavior. And group singing also provides mother with parenting repertoire. So new sounds, new songs to accompany their routine, to help them deal with their parenting needs. Maybe it's a song they never heard before and find that it resonates with them. Maybe another person shares the song that has been especially helpful to them. Or even you may hear a song that you had forgotten about. Oh, I know that song, and that you'd really like to sing. So this interaction can inspire them to try something new as well and use something old, create, modify. And also, as they leave the singing group sessions, mothers come out different. This you see across all the work, all the research. They come out different than when they arrived. Singing together has that effect on them. They end up changing their tempo. And usually it's a calmer tempo. It's more, they become more relaxed, less stressed as they switch off the worries of the day, the tasks, the preoccupations, to think about something else, to think of music, to think of their relationship, to think of others. And the routine and structure that songs and singing intrinsically have reinforces this mood changing, this emotion-driven characteristic of music and how it moves us in an amazing way. Part of this, I believe, is also due to the creative nature of singing. And it starts with the fact that everyone's voice is unique like our personalities. No one has a voice just like yours. And it develops and expresses you in a singular way. So when you're singing a song, even if it's a common, everyone knows it, Twinkle, Twinkle, your rendition is yours. It's a new creation. It's in your voice. And it's an opportunity. It's an expression of your emotions, your singularity, your being. And being able to do so is transformative. It's healthy and can enable change from the inside. Next slide, please. Now, of course, when looking at mothers singing groups, the personal, the social, musical aspects, they're all intertwined and they're difficult to distinguish sometimes, but research is clear in pinpointing to its benefits and potential for recovery, specifically with women suffering from postnatal depression. So studies point out the mental health aspects of singing that we just spoke of, all of them till now. And they also associate singing with higher levels of well-being in mother and in child, less anxiety, and address the developing mother-child relationship. So most studies about perinatal depression with singing are of group interventions. And they point to elements that we referred to already and more. As the women learn new songs, they interact with other mothers, singing with them, developing what we could call a sense of belonging, a sense of competency, of feeling able to and energized to care for their infant, giving them ultimately relief from their symptoms of depression. And just this morning, I was at an online event organized by the Royal College of Music in London. Debbie was here with us. I don't know if she still is. It was music and parental mental well-being, one of several events. And it's still encouraging to see so many people invested in this valuable work all over the globe, from all different countries, different professions, finding ways to assist families and enhance mental health. So some examples I could share with you: music education groups for mothers at a refuge safe house, lay leaders being trained to empower other moms to find their voice, providing spaces for mutual support, developing videos to help peer support parent-infant mental health, community health interventions through music engagement in the Gambia, involving the local music and spiritual leaders. I mean, and this was just one out of 3 sessions that I was attending. So of course, there are also, besides the interventions, there are also, you'll find randomized controlled trials comparing singing groups with playing groups, with control groups, using testing, physiological measurements, focus groups, for example. So, and you'll have groups from 6 to 12 week long or months long for mothers. And the singing interventions can include, just for you to have an idea, it could include a greeting song, a farewell song, it could include singing new songs, creating, composing, what we call, but I like using creating a personal song, explanations of the properties of music, just to understand, suggestions of how to incorporate songs into your daily practices. Okay, next slide. So singing is something, I guess I would tell you, don't lose sight of singing as you consider suggestions of what mothers can do when dealing with their depression in order to feel better, to relate better, to find their feet in their mothering role. SAMHSA and MHTTC have some wonderful suggestions in their toolkits. I was going through them a few weeks ago, and I won't have time here to go and look at each one, but reading through, I noticed that singing is a strong candidate for every one or each one of those examples of those toolkit suggestions. So one of them was remind mothers to stay strong by taking care of themselves. Okay, for the reasons that I've pointed out to you today, singing can be this help, right? They care for themselves, their own mental health. Encourage mothers to set routines. Singing, like I mentioned, along with every activity that can bring extra comfort when it's paired to every activity with the familiarity of the routine, the soothing that it brings to both mother and the infant along the way. We know what's going to happen. I know what I'm doing with my child here. Choose some pleasant activity to do with your baby. Well, for some people, singing is a pleasant activity. And pretty soon I'll talk about it's not always the case, but yeah, it can be for many. Choose an activity that is free, not expensive, doesn't take too much time, won't stress you out, that you can do more of, is useful when you're busy, is brief, gives you a glimpse of the beauty of the world. Oh yeah, singing, all of these. How about that? Find activities that are relaxing. Taking 3 or 4 deep breaths was the toolkit prompt. Well, guess what? To sing, we need to take deeper breaths. So it is naturally relaxing. And last of all, there was one more in the toolkit. Close your eyes. Let's close your eyes and imagine you're in a special place. Well, singing is also a means for you to go to another special place. I mean, in terms of memories, in terms of bringing imagery that reminds you of situations, it can spark your imagination, make believe. Next slide, please. And I'm aware of the time, and I'm going to skip a few things. Time flies, doesn't it? Okay, so as I come to a close, just a few reflections. As I said, not all people enjoy singing, and some prefer talking, touching, finding their voice another way. And some cultures separate those who can sing from those who cannot sing. And so there's all this, sense of this, you have to perform. And no, you don't have to perform. Different levels of involvement. I'm gonna skip through that. It's just some people are more in it and some people are not as much. Your body resonance, being aware of the words you're singing, the meaning of it, the people around you, and culture. Culture, I'm sure that you're already very aware how important culture is in recovery. And though singing to babies is universal, different cultures have different musical habits, and we need to be aware of all of this. And as you sing to your child, you can sing, you're also talking about through song, what is my culture, what's important, what is my story. And I mentioned bicultural, multi-ethnic. I read a Latino women postpartum depression study. Yes, I mean, it gives you the opportunity to communicate and continue what you have learned, but also gives you space to include your own voice. And I'm going to skip over. We can, during pregnancy, if you want, I can talk about that later. And so to finish, I'd like to energetically encourage you to include singing in your toolkit. You can suggest this activity as part of women's daily self-care and the care of the infant, as well as incorporate it as part of your own self-care as well, and with them. So sometimes songs reach people when words cannot, right? So all this to support mental health for new mothers using the power of song. And then I don't see them here, but there's some resources as well if you want to read more about all this. And I look forward to your comments and your thoughts, your questions that you might have, or just sharing. And I'll stop here for now.
Thank you, Dr. Elizabeth Brizola, for this outstanding presentation. So my memories went forward and forward and forward, just bringing me a lot of joy. So please, if you have questions, we can open your microphone and ask questions to Dr. Elizabeth. Or comments or ideas or thoughts or something that resonate with you.
Good afternoon. I do have a question. I wanted to know if there's any studies that show when babies are in the NICU, how beneficial this could be for them as a healing process. And sometimes, you know, moms are not able to touch them or for a little bit until they get better.
Yes, definitely. I can't see you, so I don't know your name, but yes, there are several studies. Not as many as I would like, but yes, there are studies. There are both studies. Music therapists are very much involved in, from what I'm aware of, in NICU. Here, where I'm living in Austin, at the Dell Hospital, there was a NICU music therapist. She had. And it's that NICU that you don't have one huge room with all the different children so close together, but they have separate rooms. And she worked helping them to develop their songs so that they could communicate with that child. And I know Edwards is one who has published also a book in this area. So yes, and they are, all the ones I have read have pointed to this benefit, both to the mother who is so frustrated that she cannot touch them or cannot carry them or breastfeed them, as to the different measurements for the infant. I mean, you can't talk to the infant, but you have all the measurements of the calming heart and crying less and such. So, and this is an area that's been growing from what I see a lot.
That was very helpful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, it's Debbie Graham here. So lovely to be here. Thank you for the invitation. It's just lovely to have another wonderful hour thinking about this. It strikes me that that weaving this into the everyday, it is really a fundamental sort of aspect of this. So regardless of whether you're at a group, that may be where a lot of this wonderful benefit happens. I'm hopeful that what happens in that group can then transfer back into the home. And I think that's another area that I'm hopeful will really grow, this concept of weaving it, sprinkling it over we would say nappies here in the UK. I think you would call them diapers. When you're changing your baby, that there is a little song that goes with that, even if it's a hello you, how are you doing today? Shall we get this nappy off? And then it's time to play. And it also strikes me that there's also a real role for sort of playfulness in this, that parents with low mood and depression, they may actually find that very hard to begin with, but by using your voice, that might actually mimic, I guess we might say, if we were being potentially a little controversial, that you can fake it till you make it. That if your mood isn't truly felt, but the song can be a transitional object where you can move from one to the other. And I just find it all very, very fascinating. So thank you ever so much. I've enjoyed listening, and it's given me lots of food for thought. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here too, and for your contributions. I think to me, it's especially, I'm especially hopeful with that transferring over into just the daily, and that even if you don't feel like it in the group, you have a sense of that. This is good in some aspect, and I want to repeat it, and I want a little bit of that. It's hard, but maybe I can try a little, and then have that spark and develop. Because once it is good, once it feels so good, and once they see their child looking back at them and whoa, all that feeds into moving ahead, to feeling better, to wanting more.
Thank you all. Thank you, Dr. Elizabeth. It's a pleasure to have you here. This presentation will be available at the MEHCC New England website tomorrow, as well the PowerPoint, and a couple of resources that Dr. Elizabeth shared on this presentation, as well one article that she published last year. So be sure that this will all be available. I would like to ask you to please answer your survey. Your thoughts matter. And I also want to invite you to share and be present for future presentations. Visit your website. And I hope you have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you so much. I see you pretty soon. Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone. Stay safe.
You too.